Hello, everybody. It's the Beer Club in Vintage Cellars. We have another brewery representative with us today. We've been having fun doing these. I knew absolutely nothing about beer. I've said that many times when I started these things, and I still know next to nothing, but I'm learning every month, and it's been fun and interesting. And the flavor profiles from everybody, I think this is our seventh one, maybe, or eighth one, something like that. The flavor profiles are just all over the board. It's so much different than wine. You can get what we're going to do today seems really off the wall. All kinds of flavors going on, so that's kind of fun. We have Chelsea with us from Left Hand Brewing Company. You're in Longmont, Colorado, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
We have about, I think, 35 members now. It's been growing slowly every month. We started it, maybe in August of last year, September, something like that. We thought a new club in the middle of a pandemic would be a good idea. Why not? So that was our theory. Anyway, Chelsea, can you just maybe, like we talked about, talk about yourself and how you ended up in the beer world and what you drink if you're not drinking beer?
And what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Chelsea Sanzari. I am a brewery rep for Left Hand Brewing Company. I manage a pretty vast territory. It's Arizona, Wyoming, Montana, and northern Colorado, where I am based. I just took over Wyoming and Montana this past summer because my coworker moved down to California, so we were able to swap territories. So I've not been able to travel up to Montana yet due to COVID and everything, but I look forward to getting up there soon. I have been with Left Hand for the past 4 years. This is my first sales job in the beer industry. I came into the beer industry from the bar side of things. I managed a bar here in Colorado where I was a beer buyer and met a lot of different sales reps and kind of learned the ropes that way after many years of waiting tables and working at different brew pubs. I then moved down to Arizona where I was managing a tasting room at a small brewery in Phoenix. And about 6 months after I moved to Arizona, Left Hand was hiring. And I was really excited because I wanted to go back home to Colorado eventually. So I started my career with Left Hand and then was able to move back here to Colorado 3 years later, about a year ago. So I am passionate about beer. The reason I got into beer is because I'm from Fort Collins, Colorado originally. That's home of New Belgium Brewing and Odell, and there's Anheuser-Busch there too. So it's a kind of a beer mecca, if you will. It's about 30 miles north of us here in Longmont. And so when I was a little kid, I was going on brewery tours and found it really boring as a kid. And then when I got into college, I was studying advertising and thought that would be fun to work in the beer industry. So kind of got my foot in the door through working in restaurants and bars. Glad to be where I'm at now. I really love working for Left Hand. So yeah. Cool.
So Left Hand, I guess the first thing I thought of is where the hell did that name come from and what's the story of the name, and then maybe the story of who founded it and all that.
Absolutely. So Left Hand Brewing was founded by Eric Wallace and Dick Dorr. They met when they went to Air Force Academy down in Colorado Springs, and then they both had careers in the Air Force. And after their careers were over with the Air Force, they both found themselves back in Colorado. And Dick Dorr was a home brewer, and he got Eric Wallace involved with the homebrew system. And about a year later, they decided to open up Left Hand Brewing in 1993. Originally, we were called Indian Peaks Brewing Company, named after the range of the Rockies directly west of Longmont. Sawtooth is one of the mountains in that range, and that's a name of one of our beers as well, Sawtooth Amber Ale. That was our very first flagship beer. Indian Peaks, unfortunately, was taken, or fortunately, I guess, was taken by another brewery in Denver that was making a pale ale of the same name. I do not know which brewery that was off the top of my head. I cannot remember. I don't believe they exist anymore. So we had to scramble for a new name really fast. We were about a week away from opening when we had to come up with a new name. And here in Longmont, Colorado, Chief Niwot, an Arapaho chief, has he's one of the most highly regarded Native Americans in this area. He was a left-handed chief, and Niwot translates to left hand in Arapaho. So there are other businesses in this area called Left Hand, and there's even Left Hand Canyon just directly west of us too. And so we adopted that name for our brewery. So no, none of our founders are left-handed, but we are named after one of the most prolific historic figures in this area. So
yeah, that's a good story. Perfect. And then, so you started in 95, you said?
93.
93. So obviously you were small, and then like what kind of volume do you guys do now? Are you fairly large?
So the last time the Brewers Association put out a top 50 list was in April of last year. So we'll probably see one here in the next few weeks. But according to that list in 2019, we were the 48th largest craft brewery. And that's Brewers Association definition of craft. So that's an independently owned craft brewery. We produce around 60,000 barrels a year. So at our height, we were probably closer to 83,000, but with more and more craft breweries coming into the scene, we've downsized a little bit over the past 5 or so years.
Cool. Well, I'm tasting. We call it tasting, not drinking, when we're doing these Zooms. You can taste all day, you just can't drink all day, right?
Exactly.
So I think we'll move on. Is that kind of the story that you want to tell so far about the brewery?
Yeah. So a couple other things I'd really like to touch on with Left Hand Brewing too is that we are an employee-owned brewery, which is really unique. There's only a handful of employee-owned breweries out there. Deschutes is probably the biggest one in your neck of the woods that you might be familiar with. Odell is also employee-owned, and there's a handful of other ones too. We have a really great company culture too that focuses on giving back to our community. I really appreciate working for Left Hand because we're about doing the right thing as well as doing unique things as well to give back to our community. We have a nonprofit called the Left Hand Foundation that focuses on events here locally in Colorado to help grow our community here as far as music and service industry go. We also are the national sponsor for Bike MS. So we have raised over $5 million over the past 14 years and given that to the National MS Society to help raise awareness and find a cure for multiple sclerosis.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how long does it take to get vested in to be an owner? Is it like some time period?
Yeah, so it takes 1 year for you to be eligible for vestment, and that's a 4-year vestment period, so 5 years in total.
So you're getting close.
I'm getting close, yeah. I hit year 4 in a month from today, so.
That's exciting. Cool.
Yes.
Well, let's move on to the beers. So the first one you said you wanted us to taste is Death. What is it? Death by Disco?
Death Before Disco. So this is a robust American style porter. This beer we started making a few years ago. You will probably notice too that there is a plastic wrapping on that. In case you are all unaware, there's a can shortage going on, and we are trying our darndest to keep cans going, especially up to Montana, because Montana is a very can-centric area. We do have a bottling line, so this beer will switch over to bottles here soon, so get it in cans while you can. This beer has lots of chocolate notes. This is my personal favorite beer that we make. I just think that it just makes me smile every time I drink it. Between the chocolate, and there's notes of black currant in it as well. And then it's 6%, so it's not too heavy. The body isn't overly thick. It's a nice medium bodied beer with a subtle sweetness from the malt.
It's got a beautiful head on it too.
Yes.
Yeah, it pours nicely out of the can. Are these, tell us about your nitro program a little bit. Is this the time to do that, or should we wait for another beer?
Sure, we can do that. We don't have any nitro beers on the list today. However, nitro is what Left Hand is best known for. So we were the first brewery to bring a nitro beer to bottles. Our nitro bottles are unique in that there is no widget. So it just requires you to pour hard in order to get agitation and get a nice nitro head on there. Nitro refers to the carbonation. So it's going to have smaller bubbles for a smoother mouthfeel. It is, you see it most often with stouts. So Milk Stout Nitro is our flagship beer. That's our #1 selling beer. It's definitely the reason I have my job. And it's what Left Hand is best known for. With our reputation for Milk Stout Nitro, that kind of carries over to a lot of dark beers. So we're highly regarded for our stouts and for our porters.
Nice. Yeah, we're not tasting anything above, well, I guess you got an IPA in here, but most of them are darker, it seems like. Huh?
Yeah, there's a Goza in there too. Yeah, so, and then we have a tart brown coming up next too with our Test Kitchen series.
Okay. Well, let's move on to that.
Absolutely. This Test Kitchen series is a pecan cranberry brown ale. It is brewed with pecan in the mash, and then cranberry juice is added post-fermentation. So it gives it a tart flavor. This was inspired by Thanksgiving dinner by our brewers. So they wanted something that was rich and still light and didn't overpower a meal too much and complemented a meal well, especially something like turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes. It's a unique beer. Our test kitchen is is the brewery's opportunity to get creative and get funky with things. So you will see the name of our brewers on the can. It's James and I'm blanking on the other brewer.
Well, I'm really old, so I can't read small print anymore. If it's on here, I don't see it.
Yes, but James Scudmore, he gave me notes that they really wanted to capture the season in a can.
Yeah, they did
Richness
it.
of food and cranberry, and something that goes well with eating a large meal with family and friends. It's a warm sweater on a cold day. It's comfort in a can.
We have a restaurant we have two places. The other one's called Fifth and Wine. We have a restaurant there, and we just came out with we call it the Club on Fifth. It's a club sandwich that has a turkey that we brine and slice and make it into a club sandwich. And I can imagine this beer with that club
Yeah,
sandwich.
absolutely. I bet that would be delicious.
Yeah, that toastiness is good.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has a thicker mouthfeel too with the pecans and the mash. Test kitchen beers are typically only found in our mix packs. Occasionally we'll ship out kegs for special events, but it's typically a mix pack only beer. And sometimes those test kitchen beers have opportunities to become seasonal beers in the future. And later this year, we'll have a couple seasonals coming out that were originally test kitchen beers. One is a Moscow Mule Ale, which will be coming out this summer. It's going to be a lime ginger ale with high carbonation, tastes very, very cocktail inspired. And then at the end of the year, we're going to have a nitro beer called Black Forest Nitro Stout, which will be a chocolate cherry stout. That also was a recipe started out in the test kitchen. So now to keep on with the tart trend, I wanted to go into Wheels Goes Around. Wheels Goes Around is a beer that we originally brewed for our Bike MS rides. We sponsor 5 to 6 different rides every year. And originally this beer was just kegged for our beer gardens at the end of the ride. Each ride that we sponsor will have a big beer garden at the end where people can recuperate from riding miles and miles. So this one, we wanted it to be light. We wanted electrolytes in it. So we opted for a Goza because it has salts in there. And the salinity and fruit combination just makes a really refreshing beer. I call it raspberry lemonade in a can in beer form.
It's a lot better than Gatorade.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
At the end of a ride, the beer sounds good to me too.
Mm-hmm. It helps prevent cramping from what I've heard.
Yeah.
That is not FDA approved.
You're not giving any health advice here?
No, I'm not giving health advice. It's just what I've heard.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, it was very tasty, very refreshing light. I could see this one with like light cheese, kind of a crumbly cheese or something would be really good with this.
Absolutely. I think it'd be delicious with goat cheese.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, in the wine world, we do Sauvignon Blanc with that, but I think this would be perfect with a fun Loire Valley French cheese. I think that'd be awesome. All right, should we move on?
Absolutely.
All right. I poured too much of that one. I got to pour that out. This is a good sound for beer people. All right. So the next one is this one.
Found Fortune. So Found Fortune is a double IPA. This is our newest seasonal beer. It is brewed with a bouquet of hops. It's dry hopped with Eldorado most prominently. Eldorado hops are known for imparting more of a tropical fruit flavor profile. We also are dry hopped it. We have also dry hopped it with Galaxy and Citra hops, and Comet and Cascade are used for the bittering hops. This beer pours hazy. I wouldn't classify it as a New England IPA. I'd classify it more as a no coast IPA, but definitely softer, only 55 IBUs. It isn't going to be an overly resinous IPA like that you would see, 5 to 10 years ago. It's definitely bringing us into the 2020s with this style. In addition to malts, we also have wheat and rolled oats in there too to give it a rounder mouthfeel as well.
Doesn't Colorado grow quite a bit of hops themselves too?
Not too much. We do have some hops, but typically our hops come from the Pacific Northwest. Yeah, that's where Washington. Most of our hop contracts are. Yes.
Right. And then on your website, I read that you guys use a lot of like fresh squeezed juices and things instead of concentrates. And Is that still the trend going today?
Yes, yes. There are always exceptions to the rule. Occasionally, we do need to use extracts to impart specific flavors. You will see that in our peanut butter milk stout, for instance. We use a combination of peanut butter powder and peanut butter extract, but as long as the final product it gets the flavor that we would like, we try to use all natural ingredients as much as possible. That was first started with Good Juju. Good Juju is a seasonal too. It's a ginger pale ale, and we hand squeeze that ginger before throwing it in.
Well, how about the IPA world? Do you do many IPAs, or is that big in your world, or you're
IPAs,
more porter?
IPAs are not something that Left Hand is typically known for. However, we will have a new IPA out later this year. We have Left Hand IPA, which you can find in Montana. We are in the process of phasing that beer out, and we will introduce a new beer called Wookbait IPA. I've only had pilot batches that are in the brewery. We haven't done a full scale production yet, but I'm excited for that beer. That one will also be softer, more fruit forward IPA.
Yeah, the trends that when we've been talking to brewers and reps like you, it seems like the trend is away from those huge hoppy ones and kind of going back down in the IBU world and things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't even know what an IBU was 7 months ago. So see, I can talk this beer stuff.
IBUs are interesting too, because I think the IBU measurement doesn't always take into account the malts that it's balanced with. So sometimes it can be misleading. Sometimes you'll see an IBU that's like 90 IBUs, but then it will be a lot of like sweet maltiness to that beer too, which balances out those IBUs, so it's not overly bitter. I'm not sure what the Wookbait IBU target is right now, just simply because I'm not a brewer and I know that they're still fiddling around with the recipe to get it just right.
I think this one is not overly hoppy, in
No,
my palate at least, right?
no, and it's
I think
8.7% ABV, so it's higher in alcohol too. But I still think it's a pretty drinkable beer. I don't think it's the body isn't too thick. It's not overly heavy.
well, we've been selling beer, like I said, just for a few months, like or whatever, a year, very much, and it seems like some of those IPAs, it's like cilantro in the cooking world. You either like cilantro or you hate it.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like that with IPAs. I have two son-in-laws, which I know I said in the last one, sorry, beer club, but I have two son-in-laws. One will only drink IPA and one IPAs, and one will not ever drink an IPA. So they are kind of one of those, don't you think? Beers?
Sometimes, I mean, speaking from personal experience, I feel like there's always gateway IPAs too. Like sometimes you'll have an IPA. I mean, I've even had this with wine and with like whiskey, for instance, too, where I thought that I hated whiskey. And then I learned how to taste it correctly and then got really into heavily peated scotches. And that opened up the whole whiskey world for me. IPAs, I think, me personally, I go through phases where sometimes that's all I want to drink, especially as the temperature gets higher. When it gets a little bit warmer out, I like hoppier beers, especially in the fall time. In the fall time, you get lots of really good IPAs out there because you'll have breweries that will fresh hop their IPAs, and those are my favorite. And then in the spring months, I really like IPAs too. So I would say it is. For a lot of people, they do love it or hate it, and people see the term IPA and it might turn them off entirely. But I wouldn't discredit all IPAs because there's just such a vast array of flavor that you can get. And hops have a lot of different flavors depending on the type of hops you're using and when they're added to the boil too.
Right. Cool. So the last one is the oddest one I've seen. And you said it sells really well.
Yes.
It's one of our most popular.
This is the oddest I've ever had for a beer.
Yes.
And I like it.
Peanut butter milk stout. So like I said earlier, we are best known for milk stout nitro. So we kept on getting feedback time and time again of people who wanted different flavors of milk stout. So we first tried it out with raspberry milk stout, which is also in the milk box that you have available. Raspberry milk stout was made with raspberry fruit puree. And then we went and made a peanut butter milk stout. And peanut butter milk stout is like a Reese's peanut butter cup in a can. I really like the peanut butter flavor in it. It isn't overly sweet. I get real true peanut butter flavor. We got the peanut butter flavor after. So with all of the milk stout options that are available in the milk box, it's all the same exact milk stout base beer. And then in fermentation, we add different flavors to it, such as peanut butter, raspberry, chai. And then bittersweet is an imperial milk stout with coffee added to it. Peanut butter was one that, we kind of wrestled with at the brewery as far as making that style. And as soon as we made it as a seasonal, it just took off and sold out immediately. So we decided to make it a year-round beer earlier this year, and it's become our number 2 seller behind Milk Stout Nitro. So we're really excited about this.
I can't believe you stole my line about Reese's peanut butter cups, because I
Sorry.
was going to say that. And here's what I was going to say, like next Halloween, let's make sure all of us have this for the adults that are traveling with the kids, giving out Reese's peanut butter cups and a can of beer to the adults. So that'd be
Exactly.
they both get their own tray, right? Be kind of fun. Well, and I think everybody gets more beers, right?
Mhm.
So maybe we could just,
There's 11 of them.
there's 11 beers. We have a Pilsner, 1265. We have a chai. That's the
Yes.
one you just talked about, the milk stout chai, right?
Yes. Yeah. So chai is the same base beer and made with chai spices.
Right. And bittersweet.
That one's
What is that? That's a milk stout too, huh? It says.
yes, also a milk stout with coffee and
Oh,
then
it's repeated.
an increased ABV. Yes, an imperial.
And then we've got the raspberry, like you were talking about. So you already talked about
Mhm.
that one. And then I don't know what that one is. What's it say?
Fade to Black. So Fade to Black is one of our OG beers. We've been brewing that beer for a very long time. It's one of our most award-winning beers too. That one is an export stout, so an imperial stout.
Cool.
Get notes of black licorice, very rich beer. It's that one and Death Before Disco are 2 of my absolute favorites.
Cool. Well, are we giving away the prizes today? Are we giving away these things
Yeah.
today? Okay.
Yes, yeah. So we're gonna do a package deal because the shirts they're perfect for St. Patty's Day, right?
Yes, absolutely. To drink with your Milk Stout Nitro.
Yeah. So,
And to create some shenanigans.
so we'll do that today. The winner of that is Dax Nebel. So if he wants to come grab that,
It's not gonna fit Dax. You better give it to Jessica.
that particular one won't fit him, but there's sunglasses and playing cards. So those will fit him. So thanks for donating those. We appreciate it, but everybody else is gonna also get some little goodies in their box too, so.
All right, I think we're done. Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you both very much. And
Yeah.
thank you to the Georgia's team too for arranging all of this.
Yeah.
I hope to get up there soon and meet everybody. Maybe we could do a beer club.
Yeah, we can do a brewer's dinner at the restaurant. That'd be fun. So if you get up here and we'll get something figured out, I guarantee it.
Oh, that would be
All right.
absolutely fun. For meeting you all.
Yep.
Thank you
Good.
very
Nice.
much.
Thank you. Talk to
Bye.
you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
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 All right, thank you.